In the last 10 years, so much has changed in my life that it's almost impossible to remember the person that I was, that I thought I was those 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And I'm sure you can relate to this. It's probably what draws you to my channel, to my messages. There's probably a lot more similarities between us than you might think. And I felt inspired to share a bit of my story because there's been a lot of lessons, a lot of realizations, a lot of milestones, which maybe some of them can be helpful to you. And really this journey over the last 10 years has brought me through a period of entrepreneurship, growing businesses, striving to create and to become more, which ultimately led me to moving halfway across the world to a monastery for 6 months. And I've shared this story a couple of times with some people that I've met through this platform, but I've never actually shared it publicly. So, well, where to begin? Around 10 years ago, I was living in Canada and I moved from the East Coast, more or less, from the Toronto region to the West Coast, and I started a few businesses. And that period was full of ambition and striving and seeking for a lot of validation and confirmation of my self-worth outside of me. And that was a fruitful period, both materially but also inwardly. I got to know myself really well during that period. I got to understand my beliefs. I got to see where I was containing myself to ideas that were not my own, to a paradigm which was imprinted or impressed upon me. And through that period, I dismantled a lot of these beliefs and overcame a lot of my fears, a lot of my own limitations. And this was the period of my life which was really all about self-knowledge, about knowing myself. And there's really 3 parts to this being the first part. And the self-knowledge was really characterized by bumping up against all of the things in my life which were containing me, which were preventing me from being who I really am, being free. And it was during this time that I started to dive into meditation, which I was initially drawn to because of the ideas more towards the creative expression. I wanted to tap into my mind. I wanted to unlock my imagination. I wanted to draw out of me more authentic inspiration, which I could translate into something to create, something to manifest. But of course, this led me deeper and deeper within myself, and I started to unlock aspects of me which I had no idea were there. And this is often characterized more as a spiritual journey. And it really was that. I was starting to realize and become aware of my multidimensionality. That led me to connecting with a group and a teacher who I deeply, deeply resonated with. And of all places, I went to a retreat in Vegas, and I really connected with this message, with this approach. And it took my meditation deeper and deeper. And this was the beginning of the second period of my life, the second chapter of this 10-year period, where I had at this point really exhausted the attempts to validate my self-worth and accumulate and achieve, to prove myself in the world through business and through entrepreneurship and through creating. And it wasn't until the global pandemic, right after I had met this group and this community and this teacher, that the lockdowns hit and my businesses were shut down. And overnight, I had no access to the means through which I was so used to getting my sense of self-worth from. The money that was coming in, the clients that were so satisfied, and the results that I was so used to producing were immediately just cut off. And I was left with myself and myself alone. And I had already had a taste of this more true and deep, profound understanding of myself. So I was somewhat equipped for this period. I had been traveling back and forth to Holland to spend time with this group. And when the lockdowns hit, I went back to Canada, and I had a period of about a month to really reflect on what is it that I want? Who am I? What really matters to me? And through several weeks of really contemplating this, I decided that the life that I'd created, which had brought me so much, was really coming to a close. And it was time to step into the next chapter and move to the monastery, which is actually where this group was living together. And so I decided to basically pack up my life and move halfway across the world to Holland, where I lived at this monastery with this group for 6 months. And it's not a typical or traditional kind of monastery. It was a very modern experience, but we were very devoted to the truth, and we were very sincere in our efforts, and we really took the whole thing seriously and utilized each other as mirrors, as reflections of our unconsciousness, of our limitations, of our egoic tendencies, which were keeping each of us from greater and greater freedom and awakening. And this was the most profound period of my life, and I thought that it was really all about enlightenment. But actually what I discovered was that this chapter of my life was all about self-acceptance, because I was coming out of this whole period of striving and needing to prove and needing validation for who I thought I was and who I thought I needed to be. But it wasn't until I came across this group and spent time in intimate relationship with reality and with others who were honest and sincere with themselves that I discovered just how much I was overcompensating for someone that I really wasn't. And so the first chapter being self-knowledge and the second chapter of being self-acceptance really set me up for a few years of solitude, really. At the monastery, I met my girlfriend, and this was completely unexpected because I had gone into this experience basically renouncing everything. I thought, I'm going to give up my attempts to create anything. I don't want anything from anything. I just want the truth. I just want to know who I really am, and I desire to be in alignment with that. And funnily enough, when I had given up everything, that was when everything that truly that I desired in my heart and my soul appeared. And I believe that was also because of the deep and profound self-acceptance that I was really stepping into. And from there, I traveled with my girlfriend for years. And through our relationship, we cultivated an even deeper sense of alignment and authenticity and sincerity and truth, because so much of my conditioning and programming was being brought to the surface in reflection with this other being. In relationship to her, all of the shadows and the insecurities and the unconscious egoic ideas, which were still lingering in the background outside of my periphery, were being lovingly, gently reflected back to me as not serving me, as creating separation between me and life, and me and those who I loved, and between me and my true self. And after years of traveling and opening up to each other and diving deeply into who we both really are, there was this dawning, this beckoning of a new chapter, which is the third and perhaps final, but at least where I'm at now, the chapter of what you could call self-realization, or becoming the creator, really stepping into the master that you are, that you already always have been all along. It's your soul. It's that creator within, the source of your life. It's your true self. And it's always been there in the background, and it operates effortlessly. It is that infinite field of consciousness which is literally all that is. And in alignment with that consciousness, anything is possible. And everything is instantaneous. And it was only through the self-knowledge and self-acceptance of all that I am and all that I'm not, and coming into balance, coming into harmony with everything that I am and all that life has to offer based on my experience of it, I really felt like I had arrived, so to speak. And that this realization of my true nature became more and more apparent. And the deepening of both the self-knowledge and the self-acceptance took on a whole new level. And that's when I decided that after years of creating and then years of seeking and integrating all of that, I felt it was time to start sharing what I had learned, what I had come to understand, what I had discovered, and really who I had become, even though I realized that I was always already this. I had gone on this long, arduous, even illusory journey to arrive back where I'd started. And so here I am. And even though the details of this story may differ greatly from your story, I have a sense that there are a lot of commonalities. And I have a sense that you have gone through similar lessons, similar realizations, similar understandings with yourself. And I think that's the beauty of life, is that we really are all walking each other home, and we can all learn from each other. And that's my intention with this channel, is to really share myself openly and to present my perspective truthfully, and to be a demonstration of what's possible. And I truly believe that anything is possible. And so I'm so incredibly grateful for every one of you that has subscribed to this channel, that has commented, that has been along for the ride over the last several months, because I only started sharing these videos in April of this year. And just this week, I've opened up a membership on YouTube, and it's a very inexpensive monthly membership. And if you'd like to join, I would love to create this container where we can all get to know each other on a very deep level, and we can explore more precisely, more in the nuances, more in the subtleties, with live streams, with a private group chat, and even more in-depth content. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can find the link in the caption to learn more about the tiers, to learn more about what's included. And if you're on your computer, you'll actually see a button, I think, right down here where you can join that membership now. And it would really mean the world to me for you to support this channel and for you to help me to continue making these videos. But it would mean even more to start to connect on a more personal level with each of you. And that's what I think this is really all about. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I look forward to seeing you all on the other side. Much love.